My name is Natalia Rhodes from Big Ambitions, and I'm going to be moderating the session. This is the first time we're experimenting with this format, so I'll ask you to be forgiving just in case we have a few technical wobbles, and to share willingly with your industry colleagues. So this is about a discussion, this is about getting your viewpoint across. Please make sure that we hear you. So it's going to be very fast-paced and hopefully thoroughly informative for all of us. Before we begin, just a little bit of housekeeping. At the moment, you'll see we're all in this massive virtual room together. In a moment, we're going to be throwing you into separate breakaway rooms. So you'll see a message come on your screen. Please accept that message, and just like magic, you'll be transported into your own breakaway room with your industry peers where you can have a discussion. So again, when that message comes across on your screen, just click on it and it will take you automatically to a breakaway room. If you don't click on the button, what happens is you stay in the room with me, which is also fine. If you really want to spend time with me, that's also great. But I would encourage you, if you can, to please click the button. And if you haven't been transported, that's fine. We'll put you into a room. So the chat is open, as you will see. If you want to just let us know where you are dialing in from or where you are connecting from, you can just do so in the chat. And start the discussion. And if you are wanting to comment at any stage, you're also welcome to just throw that into the chat, and then I'll call on you to unmute yourself. I will also ask for you to please keep yourself on mute if you are not talking, because if you are anything like me and I've got a random rooster running outside, you'll disrupt the proceedings, and we don't want you to do that either. So if you want to say anything, please do. You can do so in the chat. Let us know that you're wanting to comment, or you can use one of the non-verbal cues as well, just to let us know that you're wanting to say something. We're going to tackle one topic today. We were hoping to do two, but I want to get this done in 20 minutes, so it's fast. And it's going to be around the scenarios. So we'll throw up a slide in a little while to show you what those scenarios are. Thinking about a timeline, you might have seen the presentation that the Tourism Minister gave with regards to a high, middle, and a low road. I'm wanting for us to unpack what that looks like in our own opinion, and what are some of the considerations that we need to think of to de-risk our industry so that we can move up in the lockdown level stakes. But before we kick off, I'm going to hand over to Megan from Reed Exhibitions for a brief welcome. Megan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so as Nat says, thank you so much for joining us for our first ever bite-sized information chat. I'm the Portfolio Director for the Travel and Tourism Portfolio. And if you want more information, you can actually go to atwconnect.com. So that's a new platform that we've introduced as Reed Exhibitions, and it's really there to serve as an information hub for you. It will have the latest articles, and it will also be up to date in terms of links you can go to on where borders are open, where borders are closed. And outside of that, we'll give you more information on the webinars and when they're taking place. We are recording this, and there will be notes afterwards, and we'll put it together, and you'll also be able to access it online there. But I'm not going to take up too much of your time because we want to get into this. So just really thank you for joining us.
I think it's difficult for everybody, and I think, you know, I don't know if James and the other people are active, if they can hear us. But I think, oh, there we go. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Amanda Martison from Onshow Solutions. We run an international global exhibition and event company that focuses on roadshows internationally, and we take tourism products directly to market. Not the big scale exhibitions like Indaba or Meetings Africa, very much a privately one-to-one meeting or B2B meeting platform for the trade. And I think the hard thing for us is we've been hit really hard because of exhibitions being closed immediately, and obviously tourism as well. So we've had to take a really hard look at what we do from a business perspective, you know, costs, overhead, staff in the immediate future. And I think when we have a look at the risk portfolios as to where we are to try and get tourism open again is to try and have a look at what virtual platforms there are available, but while still trying to connect. So our tagline, or our focus with Africa Showcase, which is our international brand, is really about connecting people. And I don't think any of us are in the social distancing business. We're very much in the mass crowd business, you know, which I think has made it hard for all of us. And we've had a lot of discussions with tourism products that are asking us for a bit of guidance in terms of how do we still connect, how do we still get to market. So Jackie and I have been working quite hard on what those options are. And I think in the space that we're in at the moment, as much as we might not be able to travel internationally, I think we can still connect. And I think to stop tourism completely until the 5th of December is what has angered everybody. That the decision is just made for us and that we can't open up and try and manage it. I think that is probably the hardest perspective.
I also think what is quite worrying is that we've done some surveys with Cape Town Tourism members, and we've asked them how long they could actually survive in the current lockdown environment. Now, if you look at what we got back, it's 43% of businesses could survive for 2 months. And when you go to 4 months, 43 won't survive 2 months. And if you look at going to 4 months, then 75% of businesses won't survive. So if you lock down and you keep everything as it is till December, we won't come back to an industry. We'll have to restart. And I think that is the troubling thing. Also, I think a lot of things are opinion-based, which is also quite difficult. And if you look at things that's going around about social distancing on planes, the width of a seat doesn't fall within the guidelines of social distancing. It's not a meter. So it's ridiculous to think that airlines should actually keep a seat open when it's going to make no difference. So if you look at a seat, it's probably 40 centimeters. So it's actually, it makes no difference. So I think that a lot of the speculation is also contributing to the anxiety that people are experiencing. So I think there's just too much information out there that's not accurate.
Hi there, guys. It's Fiona here from the Vineyard Hotel in Cape Town. So obviously, I mean, from our point, it's also quite dire. It is very frustrating. As you know, we have the conference center as well. So to have both bedrooms and conference centers standing, completely open is very worrying for us as a business. And obviously we're also going through all the emotions and all the frustrations, especially with regards to the possibility of only looking at any sort of traveling in December. From a conferencing point of view, I think we're probably going to be even more vigilant about cross-contamination and making sure that people are safe, as well as our own employees. So whilst I understand their concerns, I think we as an industry need to seriously look at it and force the issue of opening up earlier and advocating for ourselves. And another factor that obviously a lot of us are also concerned about is that the finance support is currently based on your BEE status. And I know that we're all sitting in court at the moment to see how that's going to pan out. So I think we need to be advocating for ourselves and making our voices heard. I think it gets lost in relation when it gets translated to the Department of Tourism. I know all the departments are under strain and all sectors are under strain. But I just don't see how it's feasible that we shut down as an industry and only open again in December. It just does not make sense.
Deone, I have a question for you actually on that topic. Do you think that there's no sort of unity between stakeholders in our industry, that it's quite fragmented, that we can't actually, I don't know how else to describe this, but come together and like you're saying, there's government and then there's us, but we're so fragmented, we all have these different opinions. What do you think we could do there to maybe make that a little more unified?
Well, I have been on a previous webinar, I think that was co-hosted with Saki and Westgrow.
Okay.
And the thinking and the thinking of a way forward is to kind of make like one umbrella for all the associations to come together under one umbrella. so that there's a unified response. There's not an exhibition response and a hotelier's response and travel agent's response, that we actually speak with one voice. So I think that's probably the way forward. But also it's being heard as well. It's, you know, it's all very well to have all these different voices, but actually getting to a platform where you're heard. And I think that is very hopeful, if we can all just get together and come under a sort of an umbrella association that someone can then take the message forward for us.
Charles, can I jump in? Sorry,
Sure.
just
no problem.
Say to you is that, you know, the discussions we had, and I think to Theona's point, is that we had a discussion recently with some of the associations, and, you know, I'm very much of an advocate, as you know, you're talking about the positive stuff, and as much as stuff is happening, if we all go out with the same message, it's going to start helping. Everybody is focusing on the negative and what we're not allowed to do, and I think we've got to focus on what can we do. So, you know, that's how I'm getting through my day at the moment, is what can I do today? Like, I know there's a lot of things I can't do. But what can I do? And I think as an industry, the only way we're going to survive this is to actually step up and say, what can we do? And part of my discussion with SITE, and I know they were taking it back to Saki and to SATSA, is to say, what are the positive messages we can send out, whether it be domestically, regionally, to the industry as a whole? So, you know, the Vineyard has a restaurant, and yes, they've got accommodation, and yes, they've got the conferencing facility. What can they use, and what is possible in terms of that social distancing? Because if we start talking about the bounce back or the comeback, or, you know, we're going to get going again, we're all going to start believing in it. And I think it just shows you, when we were allowed to suddenly exercise for 3 hours, that everybody had a bit more hope. And I know it wasn't like, okay, you can go out and you're out all day, but that 3 hours, despite that, you know, the fearmongers of the people that are not wearing the masks and so on, I think it gave people hope. And I think that's what our tourism industry needs right now. They need the positive energy bunnies to get behind this and say, yes, we are in dire straits, guys, but what can we do to make it better, so that we can get the tourism minister thinking that tourism is coming back, whether she believes it's December or not. If she starts to think that we're all talking tourism and that we're behind this and it's going to come back, as Carl said, you know, 43 or 75% of these businesses closed down. People are buying vouchers for dream holidays that are properties that are not going to be around to support that. And we're already losing the airlines as you know, as the days go by.
I agree with Amanda. I think that we need to start taking action to actually portray a positive feeling. My opinion is that you won't stop the virus, but you also can't stop living. So we'll have to find a way of coping with the virus, but also going on with our lives. So I think that simple measures that should be taken, instead of lockdowns, we should implement simple measures like social distancing, wearing masks, all those things that's actually going to help, but it won't stop us from living. I've read some very interesting statistics that was done, surveys in the UK, that people, especially older travelers, are actually very ready to get out there and travel again. They feel that they are losing time and that they won't be able to take all the holidays that they still wanted to do in their lifetime. So people are out there ready to actually start traveling again. And I think that is what we should focus on. There's people that really want to do it. There's people that doesn't walk around with the fear that this virus is sort of created. So I think that we have to start focusing on the positive that's coming out of it. So I think those are the messages that should go out. Not all this, all we get is doom and gloom at the moment.
Irene, would you like? Oh, hi, James.
Hi. It's James from Thompson's Africa. Hello, people.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Likewise. Yeah, look, I agree. I just got off the Microsoft Teams chat with one of my key clients in the UAE, in Dubai, about an hour ago. And he told me, obviously, it's because of Ramadan at the moment, they had to open up things. But what they've now discovered is that by opening up and saw that people were taking the precautions. Yes, I understand, like second world country, we third world and things like that. So all of these things need to be taken into account. But their focus now, and again, it's probably because of desperation and oil has tanked and all of that. So their second most important, source of income is tourism and retail. So they're now looking at how we can now open up and live with the virus, because the virus is not going to go away anytime soon. So what they're saying is that what can we do to mitigate that in our everyday lives, apart from shutting down? And that's where the focus is now. And because of that, the Emirates has already indicated from the 1st of July, they will be flying to countries that allows them. And I'll also sit on the various tourism board webinars like UK, US, and things like that. They are also preparing for some sort of travel. So whilst, yes, our minister says that it would only be in December, I've been busy this past few months, addressing these requirements from my clients abroad who are wanting packages, some of them have given us firm dates, of travel and things like that. So, it's a case of got money, will travel. So I think you're absolutely right.
A couple of the questions or just the discussions really is how, from a tourism industry, travel and tourism industry, I think we are all a bit paralyzed with the thought that we're going to be the level ones, the last to recover in this process. What is it that we should be doing to perhaps leapfrog sooner? And how, I always personally have a problem in that I think travel and tourism is just viewed as this one big messy blob. Nobody knows quite what travel is all about, what tourism is all about. There's some dependencies, nobody can go anywhere if the rest of the world is not open. So, if that is the case, we should be led by what is available to us to travel to and try and maximize those opportunities. And likewise, bringing people, into the country from a tourism perspective. So my concern as well, particularly in your field, Roland, and I was thinking about it, we have a generation, or we have a recruit, an intake, obviously, of tourism students going to happen in January. Or is it going to happen? Is this going to be a year where there's just nobody finding this industry attractive and coming into it? And what should we be doing at other levels to try and entice? Because we need young thinkers, we need young people entering the market on an annual basis.
Look, I think from, talking from an education point of view, I was just on a call now, and our main concern is how we deliver our curriculum. So all of our full-time students have gone online. So, very upset parents. We don't deal with, all the markets out there, but we deal with a very specialized, and I'm sure you specialize in a need in your tourism industry, and you service a market. So with us, we offer private education, and people pay a lot of money for contact and having that physical attention that they get from our lectures. So at this stage, a lot of experimenting is going on regarding how we deliver our content and using the platform. So we are in a very fortunate position where majority of our qualifications are blended learning. Right. So it's already been in that space where students were introduced to, having online sessions, or, here and there, doing some tasks online. So we're very fortunate. My father, he's in the public sector, and he works for Cape Peninsula University of Technology. He's a lecturer. Okay. Wow. So he's at the end of, communicating with the students. And at this stage, that type of student in CPUT is not equipped to go online. Yeah. So, we work with two different faces here. And the call that I was on now is they ask, for the future, do you see any of your classes, changing the mode of delivery? And I said, absolutely. Everything is going to go online. If not, majority of it's going to go online. And I think this relates a lot to the tourism sector. I actually studied tourism management, and that's the interest of being here as well. Great. So you know, with saying that is, tourism consists out of, you know, showing people what the world looks like, and you physically have to be there to see what the world has to offer to you. Unfortunately, this has come across, and I think it's not going to go away, this pandemic, you know, in the next 12 to 24 months. And it's a very hard industry. It's hospitality, tourism, education, professional services. Everything is going to be a hard industry. It's never going to go away. No. So I think from what I've experienced with education and how we've delivered and how we've changed, and the possibility of actually offering it to the students, at the end of the day, anything is possible. The end user must be able to accept it. Sure. So with the tourism, I feel that we can still show the world to the world. We have to do it virtually now. And if we do educational sessions, or, you know, this session from today, I think is brilliant. It's a 20-minute session. We talk about the challenges, all of that. But going forward, I feel like we can use this type of platform and saying, let's talk about an area in Cape Town. Let's talk about the province Johannesburg, or Gauteng, sorry. Let's talk about the province of Northern Cape, and have people discuss that and open it up to the world and say, let's show you some historic, you know, buildings and pictures virtually. I think that's not going forward, it's going to happen.
I certainly agree, and I think there's certainly a place for it. Of course, we have to be cognizant of the fact that this kind of streaming and the kind of requirements that is needed for anybody who's going to participate in a session such as this requires a certain amount of technology. And I think one of the key actions from a government perspective is the reality is that this is virtual platform is going to be what dictates, and best we get connectivity available to every corner of the country, so that the youth and the those small businesses in the remotest of areas have access to this this platform. So definitely. Natalia is just saying, what should we be doing as an industry to de-risk? Yeah, and what timelines are you thinking of? What should we be considering? So I think one of the risk factors, as we just mentioned, is if we're not available, or if it's not accessible virtually, it's not actually going to work. So whatever it is that we do produce, we need to be able to download and upload, as well as attend online. As far as, I'm not sure if you've had any sight of the those remote bush experiences that the safaris are doing. I mean, there's one in particular, And Beyond. There are a couple of them. I know, I'm going to forget all of their names now, and I feel very bad for doing that, but I know And Beyond is the one. But I get a little notification every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning where they say the game drive is going to start now. And you literally go along on this game drive with the game ranger, and it is amazing. It is absolutely amazing.
And I think also it's going to help a lot of people that's got the fear of being close to animals, the fear of being out in the nature, fear of everything. Do they sell tickets to attend these, or is it?
It's free.
It's free.
It's accessible.
And that's what I was actually going to say, because a wonderful opportunity, and giving people sort of the access to experiences that they might not have had before, and there's a lot of learning going on, and there's a lot of sharing going on. You don't make any money from it, unfortunately. And while it's been amazing in the moment, watching everybody come together, I'm just wondering how you monetize that going forward. Because, you know, people need to sustain their businesses. You know?
And Lindsay, you're quite right. They're not making money out of this, but I think the exposure that they are receiving. In fact, they've been on CNN all afternoon. They've been doing this sort of a story about it. And they're saying that the interest that it sparked, the amount of inquiries that they're getting has grown.
I'm so pleased to hear that, because that's what you wonder. You wonder, you know, there's goodwill 100%. And you know there's exposure, and you kind of hope that they can translate that into business down the line. Yeah.
And I'm sort of thinking maybe that's what we should be doing more of, in not just safari experiences, but in, you know, other accommodation, whether it's guest lodges or spas or whatever it is that they're doing. there's nothing wrong with having those discussions. And I think very often we get so confused that we have to just show them what the bed looks like and what this looks like. Actually, no, they might want other things. They may take them into your kitchen, prepare some meals for them, and show them what we do and how we do it, and meet the staff and all of those things. So I think those are quite, when we talk about timelines, I think those are quite easy to do, relatively easy. There's quite a, I think anybody can do anything nowadays with an iPhone or with a tablet. I mean, a smartphone. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's about what you said, it's about thinking differently. So when you do feel that sort of paralysis about what's going to happen, it's actually the people who start thinking differently and doing things slightly differently that are actually going to come out.
Absolutely. Just on a point, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to say, you know, in the entertainment world, I'm Afrikaans and I live in Brackenfell, you know, real Afrikaans girl. And I listen to Bok Radio, which is our local community radio station. And they do biltong sessions on a weekly basis. So I think now every week they've got a different artist. So they sell tickets, 35 Rand, 45 Rand a person. It's a link to a YouTube live, or a live YouTube link that you can watch. And we did one 2 weeks ago with Steve Hofmeyer, surprisingly, and it's 45 Rand, and the whole family watched it. It cost us 45 Rand and a braai and, you know, some chips and stuff, and it was a nice entertainment for 2 hours. And what I heard is 6,000 tickets were sold globally. That comes up to a total of 250,000 Rand, you know. Yeah. And I think going forward for these companies, they can also do the same, you know. Game Drive, I would love to do a game drive on a normal basis, but I don't have the time, I don't have the money, you know, all of that. And if you're going to charge me 50 Rand to do a virtual game drive with you for an hour or 2 hours, hell yeah.
You do it. You know? Exactly. No, exactly. I attended I don't know if you've ever heard of the Nia dance technique. It's quite a nice, free, wonderful dance thing. And there's a woman in the States, and she's like the guru of this Nia technique. I'm hopeless. So she was offering to do sessions with everybody for $10. So it was quite expensive. And I thought about it. I thought, oh, you know what, once in a lifetime. And I did the session. It was absolutely wonderful. And she really makes it special. And you know why she's the guru and came away from it. She had nearly 2,000 people around the world. Now, 2,000 people paying $10 a shot. She made a lot of money out of that. She had no hire, So I think those are the things that we have to get smarter about.
You know, do it properly.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So we've got 54 seconds. Yeah, sure.
But I also think if we were with the rest of the world in, what is it now, is fourth industrial revolution. I know our government is only equipped to gear second industrial revolution right now. But I think if we were all on the same page with that, it would have been easier in this time.
So I hope that you managed to have some constructive discussions within your own breakaway groups. And I'd love to call on a few brave souls, whether you'd like to put into the chat or you'd like to unmute yourself just to let us know what you spoke about. Is there anybody who wants to go online?
Hey Nat, it's Monique.
Hey Mon.
So yeah, those 20 minutes flew by, but it's all good. And I think really a couple of the things that came out of it was a challenge of, even when lockdown is lifted, and the fact that we just don't know what is going on. Apparently we're having an address from the president tonight about lockdown potentially being sped up a little bit. Is the whole concept of kind of business readiness for when lockdown is lifted. So we've got a lot of people sitting with tickets on hold. We've got travelers with bookings that they're just not using yet. When lockdown is lifted, how quickly as businesses can we get our staff back into the offices and become business ready again to start trading? So that was kind of something that came out of it. Another thing that we mentioned was the potential, and again, this is pie in the sky and we're all kind of thumb-sucking potential solutions, but the potential for us as an industry, in order to look a little less risky to government, and thus kind of raise our profile as to which level we can get into, is to maybe look at doing assessments of high risk travel versus low risk travel. So if I'm going out into the bush to Kruger, I'm not in a hotel in the middle of Cape Town with 10,000 other people. I'm in the bush with 8 people in a lodge. You know, those kinds of remote regions are far less under threat than the busy city regions. That again, though, throws a problem in the mix, is that leisure travel for the most part is going to be the last to kind of pick up. But I think that was kind of a clever concept, and also, you know, getting a hotel transfer with 8 random strangers from the airport to the hotel versus one of us sitting in an Uber getting to the hotel. So kind of looking at, instead of looking at high risk industries or those kinds of things, high risk travel scenarios, and then kind of trying to push, can they lift the lower risk ones? Can they lift travel to lodges? Can they lift travel in one man in a car? That kind of thing. And then the last thing we discussed was really how people are getting money in right now. So we had a TMC in our room who was saying that they're still doing a lot of business in hotel bookings for essential travel. And obviously what companies have to be doing right now is monitoring their cash flow and not putting things on 30-day accounts, not doing bullbacks, etc. If you make a booking and it's for travel that's happening now, you get your money in now. Yeah, those are the ones that we discussed.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, Kate here from Cedarburg. We also discussed, we didn't really look at the 3 scenarios. We really looked at another slide that came with this slide that I'd seen yesterday, where it suggested that the onus on whether domestic travel was seen as a risk 1 or 2 or lockdown 1 or 2 activity or a lockdown 3 activity was almost on the suppliers, almost on the product of the industry, to demonstrate to the government that they were going to be less risky than the government may be saying. And I think there's an awful lot of work that's being done by suppliers of all types: transport, accommodation, hotels, game lodges. Awful lot of work is being done in terms of demonstrating that. But what we need to do is to be all starting to work through our various organizations and to start getting some commonality and some agreements that would be probably size related. So what a B&B or a small guest house would have to do may not be what a 200-room hotel has to do in a city centre, for example. But that at least the industry associations can demonstrate to the government that we are not quite as risky as they may be fearing, and that we may be able to bring forward the start of domestic tourism, which will then also obviously lead to international tourism.
Thanks. Robin, you said you wanted to say something?
Thanks, Nat. And I think we had a view on what was going on now, particularly, and also didn't quite get to the different scenarios, but the opportunity as far as the virtual platforms are concerned was really where we were looking at and saying, perhaps we need to understand better how we can monetize these opportunities. And we used the example of the game farms, the game lodges doing the early morning and late afternoons game drives, which are not really monetized, but the opportunity there is that there's going to attract a huge amount of interest globally. But bringing that concept into the smaller businesses and trying to establish that perhaps taking tours in to the back end of the business, not necessarily just showing what the room looks like, but perhaps preparing a cookery lesson or one of the famous dishes in the lodge or the hotel, just trying to think a little out of the box. And then ultimately monetizing that with a series of marketing initiatives that you can do thereafter. But I think until we really know when it is back to normal, we are going to have to become a little bit more adept in using the platforms. That, of course, then means if there's any feedback into government, we have to get connectivity to every corner of the country. The most remote businesses need to be able to access the virtual platforms, the training and development, the training courses that are available. And that's not just for the short term. We believe that probably is going to be for the longer term as well. So making it accessible to everybody.
Thanks, Robin. Amy, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity to
to have some ideas from our participants. What became very clear very quickly was everybody's ready to get back to business. What is a requirement is to have a portal for all this information to be sourced in one place and held in one place, so that all businesses, no matter what size or type, you can go to this portal and get the information and the resources that you require to make sure that you're compliant. And the key is building consumer confidence, be it domestic or international, but everybody is keen to get back to business, at least domestically. And a point that was made very, very clear was also potentially looking at, your own province, and businesses that operate in, can operate in their own province as sort of a lower risk type model, where no interprovincial travel, but at least to try and get some sort of business going. Say, for example, you're an incentive house that is in Cape Town, that you are able to then at least do some sort of trips or events in Cape Town or the Western Cape. So keep it local. Obviously, income and budget is still an issue because everybody's taking strain, but we have to start somewhere, and there is still money in the country, but we just have to stimulate the market somehow.
Thanks, Amy. Marissa, you put your hand up.
Unmute myself there. Thanks so much. Natalia, we had an interesting discussion because my sector, which is wine tourism, we have a very heavy reliance on domestic day trippers. That's predominantly intra-provincial. So for us, a December timeframe, it's very long, but there is an opportunity for seeing clients immediately. The rest of the folks in our group, they all have a very strong reliance on international travel as tour operators, and that becomes more tricky. So what we would probably want to see when government plans the relief efforts and the support that they're giving the different sectors is to look at the level of exposure that the various subsectors of the tourism value chain have. Where there's a high reliance on international travel, it's really difficult times in terms of cash flow and the business that folks have coming in. And then we spoke a bit about protocols. We also had a hotel group in our breakaway room, and everybody seems to be really savvy with what they need to do. The protocols that are available, that are in place, they're ready to implement. I mean, there's quite a lot of practical considerations in terms of who will do which steps what because of the level of movement, and then the cost. So if you're asking people to operate at a reduced capacity but with an increased cost due to health and safety measures, we may need to have discussions around what can we do to mitigate that a little bit for those businesses.
That's great. Thank you, Marissa. Some really good feedback. And we did have scribes in each of your groups. So we have inputted all the information in your respective groups, and we will put together some content around that. We've gone way over our 20 minutes, but this was our guinea pig event. And I want to thank you all for being really, really patient and helping us with the format of the event, but also with some ideas. So I'm going to launch a quick poll, and we'd love to know what you think our next event should be talking around. So I'll launch that now. And while we are busy with the poll, if I could call on Joy, who has asked to say something. Joy?
Okay, yeah, a little bit different to a lot of the guys, in as much as most of our business is international, and most of our costs, 85% of our costs happen when we leave the platform. So it's really, really difficult for us to reduce costs in any way. We are a fully inclusive product, so the wines cost, everything is going up. Our railage charges are going up. The emphasis at the moment is to try and keep 2021 rates, 2020 rates of 2021. It's hugely difficult for a company, like ourselves. Our railage costs go up. The minute we cross the border, we're paying in American dollars. Those costs, you all know what the dollar-rand exchange is like. So us as a company, we are really facing huge challenges at the moment. That's it.
Thank you, Joy. Okay, so if I can please ask anybody who has any questions or any feedback they'd like to give us on the format of the event, if they think it should be longer, if they think it should be shorter, if they think breakaway rooms are for the birds, if they would like more time in the breakaway rooms, we'd really welcome your feedback. This was our first event, and we want to do more, but we want to really focus on future thinking, forward thinking, as opposed to how we're all feeling at the moment, which I know is a bit like a roller coaster. So my thanks to all of you for taking out 35 minutes today to join us on the session. I hope to see you on a coming session, and I hope to get some feedback from you as well on the format of the proceedings, and also the topics that you would like to talk about. So for those of you who don't have my email address, it's natalia@bigambitions.co.za, natalia@bigambitions.co.za. Please, 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 your feedback would be so awesome. I'd really be very grateful for it. Have a lovely day, guys, and we'll speak again soon. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.